Hi, this is Dana, and I will be talking in this video. God guides me to talk about the overall picture, so everybody will have an overall image of what is going on. Before I do that, God showed me after the last video that I made a wrong statement at some point, essentially saying that rising your vibration doesn't help you to break parallel realities. But what I meant is, of course, you have to raise your vibration throughout your entire fight. God showed me specifically to correct this affirmation. What I meant was, it's not enough. Raising your vibration, it's not enough to break parallel realities. But of course, you have to raise your vibration throughout your fight. Just to be clear on that. Um, Okay, so now talking about overall picture of why this is happening, what is going on. It's I will try to state in just a few words because the videos are short. Essentially, what is happening and what is the essence of ongoing bondage creation is it comes down to Yalta Agreement at the end of the two world wars. Um, which basically established a strategic balance, right? It divided the world, the Western world, in two. The Cold War began based on a strategic balance, an agreement between the two sides. But the issue is that agreement and that strategic balance was established basically based on hidden bondages which were negotiated between the two sides, contracts on us, to be more exact in what I'm describing. So it was not so much about what was shown out there about military agreements and agreements on conventional and nuclear armaments and policies associated with that, military doctrines and so on. But it was basically an agreement between the two sides about the hidden bondages on us. What that means the same scenario has been sold from one government to another. So you find the same scenario, the same parallel reality scenario um, uh, in multiple countries, in multiple governments, created on the same people. So if you're one individual, right, especially if you are an old soul with special mission, with special powers, and so on, you will have in your own country parallel realities bondages created on you, which were created as a contract, which has been sold to the other side and to multiple governments. Okay, so the strategic balance resides in that. Namely, we have the same power in astral by sharing rights over the same individuals. So each side sold contracts on the people that they so-called owned, right? So power sharing essentially in terms of sharing bondages on us, copies of the same scenario. This is what was negotiated as strategic balance in Yalta Agreement when the Cold War was launched. Um, what meant for the world at that point was that there was an agreement that they take a break from competition for supremacy, which led to the two world wars, and they would share power by dividing and making copies of the bondages in multiple countries. Now, when I was in my spiritual journey for 1 year, traveling in 12 countries together with my dog, God guided me. Though many of those were countries where I've never been before, and I knew nobody there, or at least I wasn't willing to meet anyone that I knew there. Uh, I met people that I never knew before, and they were in the same. They were in the same script. So I found the same script which I fought against in Romania. I found exactly the same script in Chile, created on me with different people, many of them whom I never met. But when I say the same script, essentially those people repeated the same words to me in totally different countries, people that never knew each other, from total different parts of the world. The same situations were created, the same words were said to me, the same accusations were made against me, identical. So I have hands-on experience with that, and I traveled to 12 countries. God showed me to travel to 12 countries so I can break more copies, because God said they have too much power. There are too many scripts, too many copies of the same script activated at the same time at you, and too many people from around the world are feeding from you. So breaking the bondage with the ones in Romania is not enough, because you still have in so many other countries the same bondage activated at you. So God took me to those countries and to meet those people to break the copies of the same bondage, so I can finally break free from that bondage, right? I gave you just one example. I hope it's clear enough. Now, at the end of 80s, 1989, 1990s, the end of the bipolar world and the Cold War came about. It led to breaking down structures and agreements which were upholding the Cold War and the strategic balance. Later on, you could see uh, organizations, for example, NATO, EU, that and even UN, which couldn't define their purpose, not according to the new realities. And later on, you could find strategic agreements based on parity of conventional armament or nuclear armament, which again lost meaning, uh, but they still were left in place because behind them there was a hidden bondage negotiation, which they were first of all not willing to change, but second of all, since bondages were already enforced, nobody could reverse that. So those bondages which were sold at Yalta were already enforced on us. Those were contracts, exactly. And since they were set in motion, nobody could stop them. The darkness was already sent to us, so nobody could stop that. Um, Essentially, the institutions stayed in power and they tried to downplay them, to change them. You have nowadays NATO talking about entirely different topics, about disarmament, about nuclear. It has nothing to do with NATO, but they do it simply because they don't really have the same purpose. It's not the same world, but they cannot dismantle them simply because their creation is based on agreements, on contracts which have been already set in motion, that cannot be reversed. Okay. So this is a war now, since the end of the Cold War, a new war carried by previous generations as well. So it didn't start with the Cold War. It started with the Templars, then it started with the prisoners in Nazi concentration camps and communist prisons. Later on, prisons in Middle East, Guantanamo, and so on. Focused on mind programming, by torture, by shock doctrine, by parallel realities creation. All these were experiments, right? Which led to the creation of the bondages and parallel realities which were sold during Yalta agreement, right? Nowadays, we have new versions of the same concepts, of the same tortures and strategies. Some of them called targeted individuals and gang stalking, parallel realities and timelines. This is a multiple layers of structures which create and enforce bondages, enslavement industries, essentially. You have government institutions involved, you have media, entertainment industry, so much more. The entire society is engaged. You have nowadays mercenaries, professional uh, uh, organizations for bondage creation and gang stalking, which do it for money. So they already have a price for each type of bondage to be created. It became much more complex. Because at the end of the Cold War, competition for supremacy and dominance started again. But the strategic balance from the Cold War time is still in place. Hidden bondages shared during Yalta agreement, contracts sold then, and copies made then are still in place. As I said, there, since they were set in motion, nobody could reverse that. So it really didn't make sense for them even to renegotiate it, because nobody could reverse what was done. So all of them started a competition, and they started to invent new ways to enslave and to create additional bondages at us. So the new competition started to create new bondages in addition to the old bondages which they sold on us, and contracts, and to find new innovative ways to do this. So what we are facing now, it's a new world order in the making, which started since the 90s, where everybody is in competition with the others, finding new ways to enslave us. The determinant factor is bondage creation, creating bondages on us, creating contracts on us, in addition from the pre-existing ones before the Cold War started, or during the Cold War. Since the 90s, we are in open confrontation among world leaders, the so-called leaders, which were enforced by secret societies through stealing rights from us. And this confrontation is for domination and supremacy on Earth. How is this useful to us? Why this matters to us? Well, it matters because we have to understand the big picture. As we can detect different camps, different ways of attack, different affiliations of these secret societies to different dark forces being used in these attacks, because we need to understand this so we can understand how we can fight it back. We can pit one against the other, and I did this many times, and God will guide you how to do it, so we can get out of the isolation, or simply to breathe. If one camp attacks you too hard, sometimes God shows me you have to bring somebody else which is in confrontation with them. They will fight against each other, so you can breathe a little, and we find a way to take you out of there. But you must know, at some point, sooner or later, they join forces when push comes to shove, to overwhelm us, to isolate us, and ultimately aiming to destroy us if they cannot break us. But of course, my experience says no weapon formed against us shall prosper. God is next to us. This is why we must claim justice, judgment, and punishment, so God can reveal all the hidden bondage and to guide us how to fight it. God is the most strategic strategist I ever seen. He knows their plans. He will guide you exactly what's the best way to fight it, appropriate to that specific timing in your fight. Many times he will guide you to keep quiet for a time until something is being exposed or revealed, and he will tell you when to start to confront them, or how is best to confront them. It's vital. God's involvement in this fight is vital, and claiming justice and judgment is the only way to get it. Why is it useful to have this overview, this overall picture from a high perspective, to understand that Nuremberg was a sham, that due to hidden bondages, everything that we saw in Nuremberg was just a cover-up, and those guilty actually got away. The scripts which were created during concentration camps were stolen and sold among countries, governments, to enslave us. So we need to understand, because we can make parallels, and we can understand the forces involved, the how is this in English? The complexity of the situation, and to take this very seriously is a very strategic endeavor, which must be dealt with in a very serious manner and in urgent action taking, fighting for yourself, but also positioning yourself in the broader picture. I will stop here. God really wanted at this point in time to send this message out there, which calls people to look at the broader picture, at a higher perspective, to try to identify exactly which are the forces behind this, and how we can best come together into fighting it. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel so we can make this information available to those who need it. All of it is information which I received as divine guidance through my spiritual fighting. Is information very dear to me. I was hoping to share it at a different time when I would be settled and in with proper conditions for high quality videos and more prepared to do it. God says this is the time to do it. I cannot keep postponing. This is important to get the message out there. So I'm hoping those that need to hear this will get the information in time so we can join forces and defeat this. Thank you.